No, not Sylvia. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Input English. In this episode, we join Craig, Bobby, and the family, and this is all about the new location of the garden. When Kathy was growing up, her parents always had a garden. And she remembers that they were always spraying some sort of poison on these plants to get rid of the pests, the bugs, the things that were eating their garden. And now as an adult with her own family, Kathy has decided that she, yes, does want a garden, but no, she does not want any pesticides. So she has done a lot of research on non-toxic remedies for the usual garden pests. She wants an organic garden so that the food she feeds her children is completely devoid of toxic residues of poison. Kathy has had a garden in this yard for several years, but she's always been very dissatisfied with its location. It doesn't get enough sun, and it's not in a convenient location. She can't enlarge it. She can't make it any bigger. So she had talked to Robert about maybe moving the garden to the other side of the yard. The problem with the other side of the yard was the presence of a small misshapen tree next to the fence that shaded this ideal location. She reasoned that that tree could be removed and then she could move her garden to this better location. She brought Robert out to the yard to discuss this. Now, Robert immediately objected to the idea of removing another tree. He had only recently removed the mulberry tree at her bidding, and now it appears that she is at war with trees. Now, Kathy had anticipated his objection and said, listen, this tree is a problem. It's not in a good location. It's not a very special tree. I propose that we simply replace it with a better tree. And I think over there, we should have a nice cherry tree instead of that. Robert thought, oh, okay, so we're just kind of swapping the trees out. I'm not just cutting down trees wildly. So he bought into the idea. He examined the location and realized that the secondary benefit of removing that small tree, which was right up against the fence, is it would make it much easier for him to replace that section of fence which had deteriorated and needed to be replaced. So they agreed. Robert ordered the supplies to replace the fence. He selected a cherry tree and purchased it. He brought that cherry tree home with a root ball where the roots and some soil around the roots were tied up in a big burlap sack. And that cherry tree was near to where he was going to plant it. They didn't really discuss these plans with the boys. Robert took a day off of work, so after the boys went to school, he set to work doing this task. He figured he could get it done by the end of the afternoon for sure. He quickly cut down the tree. He cut the wood into fireplace-sized segments and stacked them. He took the leaves and small branches up to the street so that the city could haul that away. He demolished that section of fence that needed to be replaced. He quickly assembled the new material and replaced the fence. He was surprised how quickly all of this occurred. He was very efficient. By mid-afternoon, shortly before the boys were to return from school, he was done and had put his tools away. He went inside to get cleaned up. right around the time the boys arrived home. Now, when Bobby and Craig got home, they got something to drink and put their school supplies away. They went out into the yard to greet Oscar and toss the ball around with him for a while before dinner. Oscar had supervised all of Robert's work. He had watched every move. He never took his eyes off of Robert and all the funny things he was doing. When the boys got out into the backyard, it was Bobby who discovered the changes in the yard. He exclaimed loudly, "Oh no, not Sylvia. They cut down Sylvia." This alarmed Craig, who came to his side and gazed upon the sight. Indeed, they had cut down Sylvia. It turns out that that tree that the parents didn't value greatly was their favorite tree. It was the only tree that they could really climb. The limbs were low enough to the ground that they could get a grip, get onto the tree, and climb up fairly high. The bark was smooth, so it didn't chafe their skin, and the spacing of the branches seemed ideal for their size. So they had actually been climbing that tree for a couple of years. It was Bobby who named the tree Sylvia. Now, we don't know where that name came from. Bobby named the tree Sylvia. The boys were not happy with this revelation. They didn't cry. Craig marched into the house and confronted his parents and said, "Why did you cut down Sylvia?" Kathy and Robert puzzled for a moment, thinking, "Who's Sylvia? Oh, the tree. The tree has a name?" Craig explained that that was their favorite tree, and the parents explained that really the tree needed to go and it's going to be okay. Kathy and Robert realized that they had made a small mistake. Their mistake was not removing the tree. Their mistake was neglecting the fact that their boys were growing up. They were used to making decisions as parents with little kids. And now their two boys are old enough that they have opinions and feelings as well, and they really need to be included in these sorts of family decisions. They need to have a voice. This change had been lost on Kathy and Robert, but this experience put it center stage. They knew that going forward, these boys needed to be able to express their opinions and be heard. Kathy turned to Craig and explained quickly, "We had no idea. I'm sorry. We made a decision. We should have told you about it. In the future, we'll let you in on these sorts of discussions and you can tell us how you feel." Is that okay? Craig nodded. Craig went out to explain all of this to Bobby and Oscar. That's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I invite comments below, and I hope you join us in future videos. See you soon.